This is the only advice you need with business success speaker, Matt Hyams.
This week, we're talking about how to get that attractive work from home situation. We're going to talk about Christian deodorants, working at the Anne Frank house, and astral body projection.
All right, let's do this.
Everyone wants to work from home now, but not every company is offering work from home opportunities, which is a big mistake. Nevertheless, asking to work from home is a delicate situation because you can't just say, hey, I want to work from home now. They won't go for that. You've got to play it carefully. You've got to go by steps. The secret is you have to make them feel comfortable with the whole idea of you being at home and not in the office. So how do you make them feel comfortable with the idea of you not being in the office? You're going to have to figure out ways for you to be away from the office and finish your work at the same time to show them that this can work, this can happen. You can be trusted even if they can't see your face. You will still be productive even if you're not sitting in your office chair. So for instance, if you're homesick, well, then that's when you're going to have to work harder than you've ever worked before to make them think you work even better when you're sick and at home. Now, working that hard while you're sick is going to make you even sicker. You might start out with a regular cold and then you'll develop a fever, which, with enough hard work and worry and stress on top of it, can lead to pneumonia. And then eventually you'll end up in a hospital, which on paper sounds bad, but this is a golden opportunity. If you're trying to score a work from home situation, then this is what you need because you'll need to work in the hospital as well. And this is going to increase that faith in your employer that you can do this. When they see that you're working from your hospital bed, they're going to be like, okay, I can trust this person. Even if they're on the verge of death, I know they're working for me. And that's the confidence that you need to instill in your employers, that even if you're dying, you'll still get your work done. You'll answer your emails. You'll hand in those projection reports. You'll create all the PDFs that you need to create before you die. I had a near-death experience once because I had pushed myself to the edge in order to get that remote working situation. This is before I started my own business. I wanted to start my own business, but I knew I had to work remotely first in order to get my side hustle going. And that's a fear that employers have. Oh, if I let them work remotely, is that the beginning of them doing their own thing and going off on their own and creating their own business in competition with me? The first thing that the employer is going to say is, are you in competition with me? And you have to say, I am not in competition with you. I'm not trying to compete with you. And the employer will probably be like, I feel very insecure right now because I seek external validation and this feels like abandonment and reminds me of the time my father left my family to walk the earth and never came back. He was a visionary without a vision. A lot of employers, as soon as they hear remote, they hear competition. They're going to want to pounce on you and kill you. So, what's the answer? Well, you've got to figure out a way to get them not to kill you, which is to kill yourself by working so hard remotely that they feel, okay, I don't have to kill this person. They're going to kill themselves for me. And that's what employers like to see. And that's going to get you that attractive work from home, remote working situation. You're going to be on the brink of death, but chances are high that you'll come back and survive. And when you do, guess what's going to be waiting for you? Remote working. So, when you're sick, push yourself to the edge of life. Tell your boss, even if I do die, because I've pushed myself to the edge while I've been sick, I have systems in place. I have electronic systems in place to keep doing things while I'm gone for at least 3 months. So while you guys transition to someone else in my job, and I'm transitioning into my next life, I'm in the Bardo state looking for my next parents, and I'm just an empty form of consciousness, I will still have electronic systems in place on my computer that will be answering my emails. And you can tell them, I've already anticipated all of the emails I'm going to receive, and I have answers to them ready to go on auto reply. So give them those reassurances. So that's one way. Another way to prove you can be trusted to work while not in the office is to work while you're on vacation. I took a trip to Amsterdam, and I went to visit the Anne Frank Museum. And I was working in that Anne Frank house the whole way through. You know, the tour guide would say, this is where Anne would write and be with her family. And I was like, and this is where I answer emails, make spreadsheets, and create PDFs. While I watched the whole Holocaust video in the film room they have there about her life, I was writing emails. Yes, John. Yes, Mary. Yes, Roberta. I'll have that PDF for you in 5 minutes. And the time it took for the Germans to take the Franks away, I could finish my work for the day. So I worked through that Anne Frank house tour. And I worked at Auschwitz too. I took a tour of Auschwitz. I had my iPhone with me. Now, it's not great Wi-Fi there, but I had a backup. I had a backup Wi-Fi spotter, had a hotspot, Wi-Fi hotspot, and I worked. The tour guide would say this is where they were led into the gas chambers, and I was like, this is where my PDFs have never been better. So figure out ways to work while you're on vacation, because you have to be able to work from anywhere and prove you can work anywhere if you want your boss to believe you can work anywhere. I can work at the Coliseum. I can work at the Cambodian caves and the killing fields if I have to. And I do have to, because I feel an urge to work in Cambodia sometimes. So I make those trips. And I get some of my best PDFs done in the killing fields. I've worked at the Vatican. I've worked in a rainforest. I've worked in the Taj Mahal, and I was asked to leave because they don't like work there. I'll work wherever. I'll do what I have to do in order to get my side hustle going to get that work from home situation. Because I knew I couldn't get my business off the ground unless I could get that remote working situation going so that I could work on my side hustle. So you got to be able to work off the charts when you're sick and in bed, on the verge of death, on your deathbed, and you got to be able to work on vacation no matter where you are. You got to show these people you can be trusted because they're going to be worried about productivity. Is productivity going to fail once they let you be out of the office? And the other thing you can do is continually get to work late, be a problem. Say continuously, it's taking me longer and longer to get to work. And what I did was I started showing up hours after everyone else. Like they'd get there at 9, I'd get there at 1. They'd be like, where have you been? I was like, traffic was brutal today. They were like, okay, till 1 though? And I was like, there were 15 trucks overturned and 12 people died. I was literally driving over bodies to get here. I said, if I worked from home, I wouldn't have to drive over dead bodies on a bloody highway to get here. And eventually, after I had been in enough traffic jams and accidents, they started to come around. Also, if you're driving to work, another idea is to just drive into a ditch to make yourself late. A safe one. You can get towed out, but you are in there. I would often fall into a ditch. I can't tell you how many ditches I fell into when I was trying to get that remote working situation. I'd be like, hey, it's me. I'm going to be late. And they said, well, what happened? I said, well, I fell into a ditch. The good news is you can also fall into a ditch even if you're not driving. You can just be someone who walks along and falls into a ditch. And you can say, hey, I'm sorry I'm late. I fell into a ditch again. I'm waiting for someone to get me out. And my employers did start to catch on. They said, you told me you fell into a ditch yesterday. And I had to think quick. And I said, well, this is a different ditch. And they asked me, I'll never forget this. They said, why are there so many ditches on your way to work? And I said, because the city doesn't fix the roads. Where are our taxes going? Which is a great excuse to tell them. You can always say that to people. Where are our taxes going? Because people love talking about city taxes and how they're not being used right. And they'll say back to you, tell me about it. Don't worry. Just get here when you get here. Can't believe these city officials. Corrupt. Everyone's corrupt. You can even dig ditches for yourself to fall into because they might want to see where these ditches are. They might want proof, in which case you better start digging ditches and deep ones because they got to be ones you can't get out of easily. So that was something else I did during the night was I dug ditches. And if you're not in the city, if you live in the country, you can say, well, I fell into a well and I don't know when I'm getting out. Another idea is to stop getting along with people at work. I deliberately created problems for my coworkers to show that I wasn't a team player anymore. Now, my work was still impeccable. I was creating more PDFs than everybody else, but nobody wanted to work with me because I started to deliberately make things difficult for people so I could prove that I shouldn't be in the office. Someone at the time might have said to me, hey, when can you get that PDF for me? And I'd say, whenever I feel like it, Dick. Now, I wasn't calling him a dick. That guy's name was Dick, Richard, but we called him Dick. And people would say, well, you haven't been responding to my emails. And I'd say, yeah, and I'm never going to. And they'd be like, well, this isn't a viable working relationship. And I'd be like, you're not a viable working relationship. And they said, well, that doesn't make sense. And I'd say, you're not a viable working person, according to your mom. And they're like, you can't talk to me like that. I'd be like, I can do whatever I want. I can say whatever I want. And then I got called in by my superiors, which is exactly what I wanted. And they were like, listen, you're not getting along with people and everyone's complaining that you're being rude to them. And I said, yeah, it's true. I'm not happy with them and they're not happy with me. And I think we'd all be better served if I worked from home. First, they were like, well, please give it another shot because you can't just not get along with someone and then decide you're going to work remotely. This isn't how it works. This isn't your choice. So I said, fair enough. And I walked out of the office more determined than ever to not get along with people. Now, knowing I had just met with the boss, people thought I would turn my act around. And a coworker said to me soon after I walked out, they said, so you're going to start answering my emails now? I said, I'm going to start answering your face with my foot, implying that I would kick them in the face. Now, I would never do that, and I didn't, because that's not going to get me that remote working situation. And that's what I was after. And that person said, are you threatening to kick me in the face? I said, I'm not threatening anything. I'm just not going to answer your emails. And they said, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to eat all of your food in the fridge. I'm going to eat whatever I want. And I'm going to do whatever I want. And I ate their salad that day, all of it. And I don't even like blue cheese dressing. And they said, it doesn't sound like you're trying to make this better. And I said, if it doesn't sound that way, then listen to the sounds that you hear. If you're hearing things, follow them. And they said, well, what are you, a sarcastic prophet? And I said, what are you, garbage? And they went to my boss and relayed this interaction to them. And soon after, guess what? I was able to work remotely because the bosses later told me that that person was in fact garbage, and they were happy someone finally told them, and that fed into the decision to let me work from home. I had proved my loyalty. Another major factor is mental health. Your boss might say to you, we're a little concerned for your mental health, that if you're home all day, your mental health might decline. Your happiness might suffer because you won't be around people. You won't have that socialization that comes with working in an office. You might not be motivated to get dressed or shower or go outside. They said that to me. They said, we're worried about your mental health. And they had reason to, because I had shown serious decline in that area for a while. They said, we're worried about you not showering. We're worried about you not getting dressed. We're worried about your socialization skills. I said, I've got news for you. I haven't been showering for 2 years. They said, that's impossible. You would stink. I said, I nourish myself with the air of Christ. That's a deodorant that I found. I'm not a religious man, but that is a religious air spray deodorant that I use that I found among a born-again group. They manufacture their own deodorant, and it has a lasting effect for years. I spray it once a year on a certain new moon, and I'm good for a year. And it just has a sort of wonderful aromatic woodsy smell, like a rich pine or a deep oak with a nice finish, like a woody incense smell. And I find that people really like it, and it has certainly kept the authorities away from me. It's got natural pheromones in it, and interestingly, I find that when I walk by churches, the bells start ringing for whatever reason. So I told them, don't worry, I use one spray of Air of Christ, and I'm good, even if I don't shower at home. And I also have Air of Christ air filters that blow through my house. So my whole house is being aromatized by what I imagine is Christ's natural scent. So reassure them that your mental health will be okay. And also reassure them that even if it's not, you end up in a mental hospital, that you can still do your work there. There's no reason why after group therapy in the mental hospital, when you've been given your meds and you're super calm, that you can't do tons of work at that point. Because it's when you're hyped up that it's hard to work. That's when you can't focus. So tell them, if you're in the institution, they will give you the stuff you need to be able to focus. So don't worry if I end up hospitalized. That could only be good for the company. Make those reassurances. And if they still refuse, they say, no, we're not into this. We don't want to do it. We don't believe this is going to be good for productivity or the company. We want you here. We want to see your face. Then what you need to do is work on astral body projection so that there's a projection of yourself in the office while you're somewhere else. You'll need to find an astral projection class, and they're hard to find because every time you think you found one, it's actually just a projection of the actual class, which is happening somewhere else. So they're very difficult to find. They're very elusive. Get an astral projection body teacher or a class if you can find one. A good tip is if you can put your hand through it, they're not there. So then you can have your astral projection working in the office while you're somewhere else. And that's the last tip I can really give you because, look, if that's not good enough for your employer, then this is clearly not a progressive company and you should really start looking for other work somewhere else, which you can do if you've got your astral body somewhere else. Okay? So those are my tips. Those are my recommendations. Try them out. Get that work from home situation. It's the best thing for you. Good luck, and I can't wait to hear about it. And take care. I'll see you next week.